Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown from the Caregiving Years Training Academy. When I'm creating a training program, I often ask myself over and over, how complete is this course? And it becomes something of a obsession to get it as close to full completion as possible. And what I mean by that is at the end of the program, training program participants feel ready. When I've created a complete course, program participants graduate ready to do what's next. And it took me a while to figure out what participants need to be ready. And I used to just focus solely on the educational material, offering insights, providing perspectives, giving information that they couldn't find anywhere else. And that is important. And what I also figured out, it's really important that program participants face fears during the training as well. And a lot of the Certified Caregiving Consultant training includes opportunities for program participants to face their fears. So during the training, they go out and lead complimentary sessions. They lead planning sessions. They actually create courses that they deliver. Because if you do it during the training, you realize I can do this. What used to happen that I didn't expect is that I thought if I told people, program participants, what they need to do after they become certified in order to be successful, that they would do it. And what I realized is the fear stops us from doing it. It's not that they didn't intend to, it's not that they didn't want to, it's just that they didn't have support around the fears of doing it, of putting themselves out there, of taking the risk. So once I figured that out, I started adding in more challenges, assignments that actually encourage someone to face their fears. And if you face your fear during our training program, you're going to be closer to fearless when you leave the program and start your business, start serving family caregivers, start enrolling clients into your programs. So that got me closer to completion. And I thought, once I added in more of those assignments, once I added more support around the participants learning different skills, that would be helpful. And I just added 2 more master classes to the Certified Caregiving Consultant training. And honestly, I feel like that is really pretty darn close to completion. Now, I challenge myself to stop adding material to the programs at some point during the year, because I do have a tendency to keep adding. I think of things and then I realize things and then I think, oh my gosh, this would be cool. So today is June 6th. So my commitment to myself is that I've added what I believe to be the material that completes the course as of today. And then what I'll do is I'll give myself permission to live with it and then review it at the end of the year. So what I just added is a course on financial planning, or a class on financial planning, and a class on helping family caregivers come up with strategies to manage conflict. The financial planning class actually was inspired because a financial planner asked me to put something like that together for a group of financial planners. And when I did that and I heard their feedback, I thought, oh my gosh, this is perfect to add to the consultant training. So I did. And then, oh my gosh, because of that same workshop I delivered for financial planners, I realized that we need to be able to support family caregivers around conflict and disputes, because a caregiving experience is all about conflicts and disputes. Honest to goodness, that's what it can feel like sometimes. So I added in a course to help the consultants create plans with their clients about how they'd like to manage future disputes, and then plans to help manage current disputes, and then plans to help recover after a dispute, because those disputes will just, oh, they're awful. The impact after is, it lingers, it stays with you. So today I led our free monthly meeting to help family caregivers create a plan for after a family member's diagnosis. And one of the attendees was there because her husband hasn't received a diagnosis yet, but she is working toward that, and she knows one is coming. So we worked through what it could look like if she were to create a plan. Let me show you what I used with her, which is really one of the tools that we use in the consultant training. And it's actually based on a workbook that I used to offer at no charge many, many years ago to support family caregivers after the diagnosis, because we know the diagnosis is given and then we go home and the world is different. Everything seems like it has changed. Well, you know what? I'm showing you the wrong wheel. I got a little ahead of myself. So let me get the right one up and then I'll show you the other one. So the workbook around after the diagnosis offered support and insights and information. Then a couple of years ago, I thought, oh my gosh, I've got a planning tool that will help. So we went through this wheel. We talked about each of the categories, and she shared very honestly what she's worried about. And she said, I've been worrying about this stuff, but I haven't been able to articulate it. And I feel so much better that I was able to talk it out. Sometimes I hear from colleagues, people don't want to talk about this stuff. And I thought, especially after today, I think people do want to talk about it because they're worrying about it. It's just that they haven't figured out the place and the professional to talk it out with. And that's really the role of our certified caregiving consultants. They are the professionals who have a personal caregiving experience, who get it, and then have the tools to really manage a conversation. So we call these tools, these caregiving wheels, conversation starters. Because sometimes when you're in a caregiving situation, you just don't know where to start. So one word can help you start, help you find focus. We also use these wheels in conversational assessments. I think about the assessments that we go through in the healthcare system and with payers, and they're all yes, no questions, and they don't seem to really hit the mark. They miss the mark because you can't necessarily add the context around why things are the way they are, because you have to just answer yes or no. So our conversational assessments guide a conversation with the intent of asking certain questions. So we have an 8-question assessment, for instance. It follows this wheel. Each category has a word, and each word is taken from a question. And there's 8 questions. So then there's 8 words on the wheel. And it's really helpful to have these conversational assessments, because in reality, it doesn't take a lot of time for us to tell a story. It's just that the system says it doesn't have time to listen to us. As consultants, we have time to listen. And because we create that space to listen, we can learn a lot in a matter of 5 minutes. So my conversation today included the conversation with the spouse worrying about what's coming, a diagnosis for her husband. And she felt much better. So when we started the conversation, she was tired. And when we ended the conversation, she was energized because she had released the weight of the worries. So again, I really think that we want to talk out what worries us. It's just we don't know where and with whom to talk it out with. And if you're thinking that something's happening with a family member that's going to turn into a diagnosis, you are worrying. You are worrying. And maybe you're trying to talk about it with others in your life, and they're saying to you, oh, don't worry yet. You're borrowing trouble. Every worry needs a plan. That is my belief statement that drives my life. Every time I worry, I create a plan, which is why I have all these planning tools. Okay, because I really think there's so much to worry about during our caregiving experience that if we can get specific about the worries and create plans for them, we feel productive. We feel like we're moving forward. Even if we haven't taken action, we've created a plan. That's a form of an action. Okay, so when we were talking about her plans around her husband's diagnosis to come, she was sharing the story of a colleague who cared for her husband at home. And when it was time for him to start hospice services, her adult children told their mom no. They disagreed with the decision to start hospice services for their dad. It's one of those things you think, oh no. And how common is that? I think that's much more common than we hope it is, because we hope it never happens. And yet there is conflict around a hospice decision. And so the attendee today talked about how her colleague knew it was time for her husband to start hospice services. She started hospice services. Her children disagreed with that decision and stopped talking to their mother. Her husband has since died and they still do not talk to their mother. Oh my gosh, it breaks your heart. So these are terrible conflicts and disputes that we have during our caregiving experience. And one of the wheels that we have with our conflict resolution planning tool is, how do we manage future disputes? How are we going to manage when a conflict comes up? So we think about a legal document between two organizations. It includes a clause about how we're going to manage when there's a dispute. And I think it would be helpful for us to think about doing that after there's a diagnosis, because there's going to be conflict and dispute further down the road. And if there's a diagnosis and we're talking about the impact of that diagnosis, let's think through what can we do now so that we have some agreements in place about how we're going to manage conflicts. So for instance, you see the word default on the wheel and you might think, default, what does that mean? Well, it means default to the carrie's wishes, default to the power of attorney. So if there's a dispute, everybody might agree, you know what, we're always going to default to the carrie's wishes. We're always going to default to the power of attorney. That way, when the dust kicks up because of a conflict, you can remind everybody, we've agreed the default goes to mom's wishes. The default goes to mom's power of attorney. I don't think that this is the only solution around conflict resolution. It can be some solution to actually have a conversation about how we want to manage future disputes. It can only help, right? So then the second part of the plan around conflict resolution strategy is, again, okay, so the conflict is here, the dispute is happening, what do I do? And it's really supporting the family caregiver around, oh my gosh, what do I do? So that we can help that family caregiver see options. And then when the conflict or the dispute has settled, then we can help that family caregiver heal from the impact of that. Okay, so I felt like after today's conversation around planning for a diagnosis, thinking through how do we manage future conflicts, I thought, okay, I do think we're complete right now with the consultant training. I feel like participants will come out of the program and feel ready. The other piece of this too is I want consultants to feel ready for any conversation, for anything a family caregiver tells them. Want them to have exposure, so to speak, to all the variances, all the challenges that could come up. When we're a family caregiver and we're sharing what our reality is, It's hard when someone seems absolutely at a loss for words. And that can happen when we're talking to our friends about it. They'll just be like, wait, what? You're kidding me. If we share what's really going on with a consultant who receives that information as facts, who doesn't overreact, that's calming for us. That's a stress reliever in and of itself. So as consultants, we gather the story, we look at the details as facts, and then we move forward in a conversation to help the family caregiver figure out what's next. That's really powerful too. So we enroll in our Certified Caregiving Consultant training participants during the first 7 days of every month. That gives us time to support the consultants as they move through and into the training program. We want to be available to answer questions, to provide support, to ensure that that training program participant moves through the program. We want each and every participant to complete the program and get out there and help and serve family caregivers, because we know family caregivers need help and support. It's very complicated and complex these days. And family caregivers want professionals who understand and can help. We did a little bit of a, I guess you could say, an informal market research program with an organization who answers family caregiver phone calls. So there's a call center, family caregiver calls in for help, and the call center employees would say, how would you like to be referred to a coach who can help you, who's been through the caregiving experience? And every caller said, yes, please. So we know that family caregivers want this. They need it. And I feel today that the program is in a place that really is complete, so that training program participants are ready at the completion of the course to go out in the world and serve and support and help family caregivers. So if you're interested in taking a look at our consultant training, you can go to careyearsacademy.com. You'll find information about the program, curriculum, CEUs. We've just been approved to provide 75 CEUs for nurses in 50 states, for certified dementia practitioners, for certified senior advisors, and for healthcare professionals in Illinois. Just as an aside, when I first developed the Certified Caregiving Consultant Training Program in 2016, we were approved for 8 CEUs. And at that time, I was like, oh my gosh, 8. And then over the years, I have added, revised. And so just this past May, I submitted the application to up our CEU hours to 75. And then, of course, 2 days later, after I got approval, I thought, oh, darn it, I just added more. So it's actually, anyway, I'm not going to go down that road because it drives me nuts. It's 75, and that's enough. That's enough. Okay, so again, go to careyearsacademy.com to learn more about a certified caregiving consultant training. Again, we enroll during the first 7 days of every month so that we are available to support and help the new training program participants. We want that experience to be one that feels successful from the very start. You'll find all the information, again, the curriculum, the CEUs, you'll see different wheels, you'll get a feel for what the program delivers. And then if you need to talk to me one-on-one to see which level of the consultant training is right for you, you can actually schedule time with me. And my calendar link is on the website, and I'd be glad to meet with you. It's important to me that you make a good decision, because I know that a decision to enroll in our Certified Caregiving Consultant Training Program is an investment in your time and money. And I want it to feel like for you, it's a great investment. Okay, thanks so much. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.